Hello and welcome to the Get Creative Podcast, the podcast for creatives by creatives. I'm Evan Schmidt, and my guest today is Troy Nebeker. He's the creative director for Motofish, a creative agency based in Seattle, Washington. All right, so Troy, thanks for coming on the show today. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me. First off, this is a pleasure and an honor for sure. I am a Seattle native. Been here since I was 7 years old, and sort of grew up in the creative community here. I've had the good fortune of working with lots of amazing people in Seattle, both on the design side and agency side. And it's a wonderful market. It's a pleasure to work here.
Cool. So what's something important that you've learned in your professional career or your personal life?
I think creative was one of those businesses that's sort of interesting. I would say the single most important thing that I've learned is to say thank you. I think a lot of times, early on in your career, you spend a lot of time trying to meet people and showing your portfolio and trying to get work and things like that. And in that hustle, the simple act of saying thank you sort of gets forgotten. And by thank you, it's thanking people for taking some time to review your portfolio, give you honest words, give you the hard feedback. Sometimes that's not easy to say thank you for, because it can be a bit brutal at times. I remember my first portfolio review was one of those brutal moments. I walked out of that review and was pretty discouraged because he basically told me that I needed to go back to school after 4 years of school, and needed to kind of rework my portfolio. And at the time, I was like, "Oh man!" But about a day later, I started to realize that that was some pretty good advice. And so I re-looked at my portfolio and redid it, and I'm like, I'm going to prove this guy wrong. And fast forward, many years down the line, I actually went back to him and said thank you for that review, because that was actually a pivotal thing in my career, because it forced me to take a hard look at myself and go, is this something that I really want? And the answer was yes. And he made that happen.
Wow, that's a way to figure it out, and especially I'm sure if you're in a really high, or I guess in a big city like, Seattle or New York or LA, and where there's a whole bunch of people going by and you're just trying to get somebody's attention, it's probably really easy to lose the gratitude of just, getting somebody for a minute or 30 seconds, or just even getting a response out of them. I know that trying to shop my demo around and doing auditions, like I almost never hear back unless it was a direct, got the audition from somebody and I followed up a week later and they said, oh yeah, you didn't make the cut. But yeah, it's easy to lose sight of just saying thanks.
Oh, absolutely. And I think,
Yeah.
especially today, it feels like it's really easy to ghost on both ends. So, sending out an email or having a conversation with somebody and then disappearing. I actually find that kind of frustrating, because it's, you don't know if you're doing anything right if no one tells you.
Yeah.
And so I've always kind of operated under the premise of, kill people with kindness, and be nice and say thank you, and that typically gets a good response back.
Yeah, and it's nice to have empathy too, especially if someone's busy, like they're a creative director or a video producer or somebody, and I find myself going through emails and prioritizing which ones I need to read right now and which ones I can shelve, and just kind of understanding that the person on the other side may just be having the worst day ever, and it's nothing against you. They just never saw it, or something, they got a flat tire when they were reading the email.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I mean, I think there's realities to the amount of information that everybody gets, and that's, I'm guilty of it as well. I mean, I think your inbox is inundated, but I think if we can all take half a second and really kind of step back. And I'm a little bit further along in my career in being able to remember what it was like just starting out. Um, the people who take the time to get back to you and to give you some honest feedback, or even just say, "Hey, man, I'm too busy right now." I mean, those are the people that you remember, and those are the people that typically shape your career.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. I really like it. I really dig it. So, what are you working on right now?
Right now, honestly, we're working on updating our website. And, that seems to be
Very important piece of a creative agency's marketing.
very important piece. And it's websites are pretty much a constant flux because you have new work and you're processing everything. And we've made a bit of a change because prior to me coming on board, we were a commercial photography agency, and then with the addition of creative and creative direction and design, we've really been able to kind of expand what we're able to offer to both other agency partners and then client direct. We can kind of be that SWAT team of sorts, being able to deliver beautiful visuals that are on brand and smart, and and then have the design match that. It's become a pretty nice system.
When you said earlier that there's 4 of you at the agency, so you don't really have the problems that a big agency has as far as overhead.
No, not at all. I mean, I think we're able to be. I mean, everybody says that they're flexible and nimble, and I totally get that. We're able to scale according to a project, which I think for some agencies that can be difficult. With commercial shooters, both still and video, in-house edit, and then myself with the creative direction and the understanding of brand. I think that combination of skills is super valuable when a client, either agency or client direct, calls up and they have questions or concerns. They're talking to the people that are actually doing the work, and I think that's a really nice thing.
Yeah, it's building the human relationships so that they don't think you're just disposable. You're the actual guy. You're the person. You're the mind behind it. There's no gatekeeper and there's no intern.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been very fortunate, and I think a lot of agencies are like this. We've been very fortunate to work with the same group of people for many years. So, you develop friendships, you develop that trust, you develop the ability to, sit at a table and go, that may not work, or wow, that's a great idea. We would have never thought of that, and that friendly collaboration is really, really a nice thing.
Oh, cool. So where can people find Motofish?
Right now, you can find us at motofishimages.com. And then, like I said, we're kind of in the process of revamping our site to include a lot more of what we have to offer. You're more than welcome to call me direct, 425-785-9372, and or email, which is troy@motofishimages.com.
Well, great. Troy Nebeker, thanks for coming on the show today and getting creative.
Absolutely, Evan. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's it for another episode of Get Creative. You can find more information about my guest in the show notes. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and Stitcher so that new episodes magically appear. And tell a friend about this show. For more information about me, just go to evanschmidt.com. Thank you for listening. Now go get creative.